program designed to help students be successful as they transition to the community college level from high school. So all our students are in general education classes at Kirkwood. They're full-time students, and then they're scheduling on a regular basis to get help and support in their programs. These are three of our real live current students. They'll be exiting this May, so they've been there all this year. I'm gonna let them introduce themselves and talk about their major and what high school you're from.
I'm Megan Meyer. I'm from North Cedar. My major is radiology technician.
I'm Loshika Embry. I'm from Iowa City, so I went to City High, school that leads. And I'm an education major.
Hello, I'm Devin Knievel. I'm from West Branch. I went to West Branch, and I'm in ag production.
Okay, so all of the students had IEPs in high schools and used accommodations and services in high school, and then they all started with us, kind of went through an intake process. The high schools refer them to the program, and so their IEP team referred them fairly early in your senior year. And then they went through an intake process, a lot of information gathering, and are still under an IEP in our program. It's considered a 4+ program, and this all year. So we just want we're going to go back through, maybe you guys can talk just a little bit about your transition and kind of when you came in, how you felt coming in. I know some students are pretty overwhelmed coming in, and these three have all done a really good job of using the resources available to them, and I think they've all benefited a lot from the program. So do you want to just talk a little bit about what services you've used or how you felt coming in and how you feel about exiting us now?
So coming in, it was a little nervous because obviously it's college. And I mean, you're in a different setting and you don't go to classes every day of the week. I guess I was more nervous about how everything kind of worked, but I was really glad that I'm in Vital. Services I use is Read, Write, and Gold, which is you can get your college textbooks on CD, and then you put them in the computer and they read them to you, and I love that. They will look over your papers, which I'm bad at, so that helps a lot. I mean, I'm in there a lot, maybe more than some, or more than I have to be. And what was that question?
I think that's good.
Oh, okay.
Right now.
When I first came in, I was not ready for anything, so I had that to no, I'm not doing this. So I kind of got off to a slow start, and Brenda kind of had to get on me just a little bit, just because she's like, I heard you're hardworking and you can do this, and I was like, I can, I just need to adjust. So once I got used to the services and Vital altogether, it helped me a lot better than trying to be independent and do everything on my own. So one thing that was really good for me was having my test read to me, because I don't, when I read it, it's fine, but hearing it, it's something that was better for me, and I did better on my test scores. And I also did a lot of studying with the staff too, so even after hours, they would stay with me and help me study for my test and get preparations going, so I thought that was really cool.
I was kind of scared going into Vital, in Kirkwood, because it's a new environment, and I don't like doing tests or reading, or actually doing anything, actually. But I feel like Vital was really helpful because I can't write that good or spell or edit my papers, so Vital helped me on that stuff. So I got better grades in my workplace. Yeah.
And
I also did the test taking in Vital too.
So officially scheduled in our room, students, it ranges from 3 hours a week to 10 hours a week, kind of depending on what major they're in. So some students are in very hands-on programs. They might only officially have them scheduled 3 hours a week. Highly academic majors usually start out 5 hours a week, so Lashika works with me, Megan works with Todd, he's a teacher that's out at the booth out here, and then Devin works with another teacher who's not here tonight, Sue. And so I know Lashika officially I have her scheduled 5 hours a week. So you guys might wanna talk a little bit about, I mean, I just feel like every year the students who really benefit from the program are the ones that are in there a lot. And we're not promoting people staying after hours with Sheikah. It does happen, but we're not trying to publicly promote that. But if you can just speak to a little bit about how often you use it and whether you only come in, you know, I think starting out, some students are like, do I have to come in here? And I think it's, not a great place to be, but if you wanna talk a little bit about how much the three of you spend in the room.
For me, at first I was like, 5 hours is a lot of time to be here. But then as the year went on, I passed 10 hours, I passed 15 hours, I passed 20 hours. Like, I would come in at 8 o'clock in the morning, come back at 11 to 12, come back at 1 to like 4. So like, I was always in Vital, and the extra help, it was good for me. And not all the time did Brenda have to help me, but it was just good being in the Vital setting. So I found it comfortable. And so, yeah, I mean, like, you think 5 hours is a lot, but college is college. Like, you're gonna need more than just 5 hours of help.
I think first semester I spent about 20 hours a week. I mean, I'd come in, I'd go to class, and like every break I had, like I was in there. And like you said, not all the time do you need help. Like, there's computers in there, there's tables, there's quiet rooms if you need them, like just go through note cards and stuff. But yeah, people think 5 hours is a lot, but it really isn't. And then second semester, he usually has slot times, and he's like, he'll show up all the time, so I didn't have set times, but I'm always in there.
In first semester, I had like almost 5 hours each week, but now second semester, I have like about 10-ish. I like to stay in there and like rewrite my notes because tests are hard, so I like them to read my notes with me and quiz me over the stuff. Yeah.
And so the general transition to college, I think I've heard you all say the tests are really difficult. And I think, can you speak a little bit about your classes and whether all your points are coming from test scores? So if you're not a good test taker, you know, are you gonna be buried in class, or are there other ways to recoup some of those points if you're not a great test taker?
Honestly, I would say it depends on the class. For me, when I was taking my first education course, the tests were a big deal. And I was scared because I'm like, I'm not a test taker. I freak out, I have anxiety, I cannot do it. But when I spent the extra time in Vital, I aced every test in that class. Besides one, I got a B+ on it. So it's like, but I thought that was really cool. But not only is it the test, it's like you have in-class participation, like attendance is really important. If you don't come to class, you're gonna fail the class just based on that. And like also in-class assignments, like participation points, things like that. Writing assignments for my education course, it was like writing up lesson plans, and those were at least 50 points. So you kind of have to do everything to get the grade that you want. So you get in what you put out, pretty much.
I mean, I know in my psychology class right now, my first test I got a D, and I was nervous because I liked really decent grades. And then my next one I got a C. Right now I have an A in the class and don't have to take the final exam because we have other points that we have, and so it brings it up a lot. So it's not some, like you said, like some classes are mostly on tests and some are not. There's other points that can bring things up.
In my classes, I had lab. I'm like in cow calf production. Like I go out for lab and work with the cows and stuff. I get points for that, for going there every day and being in class for lecture. I'm not really sure what we're really like the points are for, but I just know the test we get points for. But I'm not really sure if we get any more points for anything else in my classes.
Some teachers also do extra credit too. So like there's not a lot of that in college. You shouldn't depend on that in college, but you have teachers that'll be like, okay, so the class didn't do so great on this test. Let's do some extra credit assignments, but the extra credit isn't easy either. The extra credit will maybe work 30 points, but you have to work for those 30 points. It's not like, oh, let's just throw some stuff on a piece of paper and turn it in. It's like, you need to do the work. So that's college in general.
And like with the test, in high school you only get you might have studied, I know in high school I didn't study hard for tests, but, maybe 10, 20 minutes. But in college, when they say, I think for like 1 credit hour, you spend like 3 to 4 hours outside of class. And they truly mean that you spend that time outside of class working on stuff, and you really take advantage. Like if they give you a page of notes, you really use that page of notes, but use it so it also helps you don't not study. So I learned my lesson on that one.
So you're all getting ready to transition out, which is always, it seems like at the end of the vital year, students are like, well, wait a minute, I got all this help and now what's gonna happen next year? So, I mean, we've spent a lot of time this past week in your meetings talking about the other services available, and do you see that, how do you see that transition going for you? And do you feel like you know what services you're able to get at Kirkwood and where to find those? And
Yes, I believe we can go to Trio. I'm not really sure what that is, but I just know Trio.
I mean, it's kind of like Vital, but it's just without an IEP type thing, and you kind of go in and they will help you as needed also. Correct.
It's not like you don't have a set time, so you can just go in if you need help. There's a math and writing specialist in there. But I claim it's not the same as Vital. It won't be the same as Vital. It can never compare to Vital.
I think in Trio, so if you're, the big difference, I think, one of the big differences is next year, if you choose to use no services, nobody's gonna track you down to use those services. If you're in Vital, you're scheduled in there, you're under your IEP, we're tracking that IEP and responsible for providing. So we're gonna track you down if we're not seeing you. So, the adult learning services that they're moving on to, that's not anything that, those people have big caseloads, so, their ADA's case manager and stuff isn't going to track them down if they're not using it. These three, I think, will do great in seeking those services out. Some students are more ready for that than others, but I think that's, the high school sends them to us because they do feel like if they come right to Kirkwood and they're not seeing, they don't have that home base every day, it might be tougher for them to seek out the services, so.
I mean, there's also vocational rehab, and they also help you with different services. They will help you get a job and make sure, financially you can stabilize things. Maybe not quite for the educational part, just make sure you're kind of on the right track.
And I heard you mention attendance, so I'm sure all of you have been in class with some students who don't attend regularly, or maybe have seen some vital students who have difficulties with attendance. So you're going to speak a little bit about how important attendance is, and I don't know if you've missed any classes or some classes, or when you miss, if you don't miss very often, or teachers, understanding.
I'm paranoid, so I do not miss class at all. I'm like, I'll be sick and I'll still go to class. Because I've been working with people that won't show up, or they'll not show up, and then they'll come the next day and well, I have a bad grade. Well, if you showed up and you do your homework, you'll be successful. That's kind of what it comes down to. When I went to Kirkwood, they said, show up and do your homework, and you'll do fine. And I must be doing something right, because I'm doing all right.
Another thing is if you miss one day of class, it's like you miss a week. It's hard to catch up because if you get in the habit of I'm not gonna go to class this day, I'll do it on Wednesday, I'm sorry. I'll do it on Wednesday, and then you're like, oh, I'll push it off, and it's like, no, there's no time to keep pushing things off. It's not high school where teachers will throw this at you and nag you oh, you need to make sure you come to class today. That is up to you. If you don't come to class, then you're failing, and that's your fault. So that was the biggest lesson.
You need to turn in all your assignments due on time, because a lot of teachers do not take them in late. But this year, I don't pay for my schooling, but I feel like every time you go to class, I feel like I am paying for my own education. Because if I think about when they're paying for it, I wouldn't want to go as much. But I feel like I'm paying for it, so it makes me want to drive to go to class. And if I don't go to one class, I can't focus on one thing. I have to be in that class every day of the class. And if I don't make it, I can not do good on a test, or not figure something out. Because one time last semester, I had B in a class, and I had an F the next day because I did not do one of the assignments I missed.
So I think, you know, if you have students you're working with that are in the high schools, I think the biggest changes sometimes with it is the testing accommodations in the college environment, pretty tight, extended time, test readers, quiet room, scribe if you need a scribe. But, you know, some of them come out of high school and maybe they're taking their tests in chunks or taking them over many days, lessened or modified tests, you know, lessened choices. So those are things that we can't provide at Kirkwood. Sometimes that's a big transition. So I think, you know, when we talk to students early in their freshman or sophomore year, just talking about starting to wean off some of those, you know, it's fine that they're using them to be successful in high school, but then start to, you know, wean off that slowly as they approach their senior year if they're really serious about coming, you know, to the community college level. And then extended due dates, I heard you mention, Devin, that, you know, we see that a lot written into IEPs, the extended due dates, and there are certain teachers at Kirkwood that would one-on-one agree to an extended due date, but it becomes really kind of a nightmare at that level because then, you know, we're not sure where your grade is, this work's hanging out there, they're moved on to the next assignment. So I'm sure that you three would agree that extending a due date wouldn't be a great plan if you have another paper right behind that coming up.
It's really important, like, to get things done ahead of time. Do not procrastinate, because if you wait to the last minute to do it, I mean, they tell you you're not going. They can tell if you wait to the last minute to do something, and then you're not going to get a good grade, and then you're going to be mad that you just stayed up, you know, until 2 o'clock in the morning, and you got a bad grade on it. So, I mean, I'm pretty good about having things done in advance because I don't like waiting to the last minute to do things.
That was different for me. I was a huge procrastinator.
I was just gonna say, you can probably speak to it.
Like, no, like I would, like when I was in high school, I would wait till the class before my class to do the homework. And I'm like, oh, I got this, I got this. And the teacher's like, you procrastinated. And I'm like, yeah, I did. So when I came to Kirkwood, I did procrastinate a little bit in the beginning, but then I figured out, hey, do it ahead of time, be on schedule, and you're gonna get better grades. And that worked better for me than saying, oh, let's do this 2 days before, let's do this the day before. And sometimes if I get busy, I do catch myself doing stuff 2 days or the day before, but I've already started it. So it's not like I'm so far behind I can't catch up, but it's like, I still rather be a week ahead than a week behind.
I like to have my stuff like done like a week before, so like Vinyl can help me with a couple days look over my stuff, and then if they suggest something different, I can rewrite my thing, or like chunks. I can rewrite like the paragraph or something. They say I should like rewrite it, or like a couple words are misspelled or something. So.
Do any of you have questions for the students, or? Yeah.
I wonder what you would say to your high school teachers, looking back.
Oh. I've really thought about this one. Because from high school, I was like, wow, they don't prepare us for college at all. Like, especially like with financial things, like, I had no clue how to do FAFSA. I had no clue, like, I mean, I did have an idea about the whole balance in the checkbook thing, but I mean, I moved out. I mean, I live close to campus, so I mean, looking at my own spine, but like writing papers. I mean, he talked about like how serious we should take this, and I was like, I mean, I took it all right, but I was like, you really need to know how to, I mean, halfway write papers in college is a big thing. Is what I really took away from that.
My thing is, I did take an AP class at the end of my senior year, well, the last year basically, and everything that I learned in that AP language course was applied in college. So I was grateful that I did take an AP course, but one thing I would recommend is for students who have IEPs that take the compass and don't get a good score the first time, you should go back and do it. Because I didn't, and that was my mistake. So now I've taken pre-course classes that puts me behind where I'm supposed to be, and I would say if you don't want to do it, you need to make yourself do it. And because now I wish I would have done it.
I wish that my school would have made like more got us ready for college, because we didn't really have anything good for college at all at West Branch. They would let us do our tests over again and stuff like that, so I wish that they didn't let us do that. and like our assignments, I wish that they would let us do them like a couple of days past the due date, but I wish that they did let us do that. Like I wish that they would like let us take down like 10% of that grade off or something.
Do any of you go back to your high schools and share any of this?
Yes.
You are such valuable resources.
Yes, I do. Because I mean, I was really close with my resource teacher, and they would actually let me come back and talk to some of the students. But I go, when you're in high school, you think that you're ready to graduate, and you're ready, and you're like, I know everything. But let me tell you, once you get out there, you really don't know everything you thought you really did. So.
And your voice saying that to the other students is so much more effective than if the teachers are telling them, because you know, teachers tell us that stuff all the time.
Yeah, that's true.
And it gets dismissed, so.
I think another thing is, and we used to have more groups of, you know, high schools bring freshman, sophomore, junior, senior groups to campus, and I just think that was, I really miss having those groups come, and if they call ahead, you know, whether it's our program or in learning services in general, we can have somebody prepared to talk to them for, you know, 10 to 15 minutes. And I think if they can, you know, they can see the room and they can see the community college, and then they can start seeing themselves being there, and then they can talk to some students who are in our room at that time, and that, I'm not sure how that's gotten cut out of. You know, I know that it's hard to get the busing and all that, but I feel like especially IEP students should be working on transition all through high school. So to get a group to come on a community college visit, you know.
You don't have the Friday visits anymore?
They do have TGIF if you want to sit through the whole overview, but you know, we used to just have informal groups. A teacher from West Branch would call us, actually, that was one that did that a lot, and they'd bring up a whole group, and if we can talk to the student as a freshman and they're using a lot of accommodations, and then they're saying, you know, I want to be here someday, and we can start talking about, you know, or if they're saying I'm interested in, you know, this major, we could start recommending, you know, then you definitely should be, you know, taking some math in high school, staying in math beyond your 2 years minimum and things like that. So I think I feel like the college visits, getting them on campus so they can start seeing like, yeah, I want to be a college student someday, that can really be motivating and talking to them.
I do agree with that. Like, if there was more like services that came into the high school and like kind of helped you figure out what you should be doing to be on track, because like the courses I took were not helping me when I went to college. So if there was more of that, I think, you know, students would be more ready for college, and there'd be, you know, it would be more comforting, and it wouldn't be so scary at first. So I think that would be cool.
Actually, Lashika's a student, I just found this out this week, that when it was first presented to her, she declined Vital. She was like, I don't really want, I feel like, you know, I'm gonna still have an IEP, I wanna move on beyond this, I don't need that, and I think you had to be pushed a little bit to come up to the Vital visit, and now, you know, she's really glad she did, so I was kind of surprised to hear that. I was like, how was it presented to you that you were declining the service, so.
I don't know, the way it was presented, I didn't understand it, and so when I don't have knowledge of something, I'm just like, no. Like, if you can't explain it to me in the way that I can get it, then I'm not going to do it unless you can explain it better. So once my teacher like explained what Vital would be doing for me, then I was like, yeah, I need to be doing Vital. I need to be doing, like, cause part of me was like kind of ashamed that I would be going into college with an IEP. And so part of me was like pride. I didn't want to do it because of that reason. But then I thought about it and I'm like, do I want to be successful or do I want to be prideful? And I picked success, and I'm glad that I did that.
And with like with what you saying with your compass, I know like with the compass you need to like you said, make sure you retake it, because if you don't, and I mean I have a setback right now with my classes, but when they say 2 years, I mean, for most of us, it's not an actual 2-year program, and you need to like understand that it might take you a little longer than 2 years to succeed your goal, but as long as you keep your goal in mind and you keep moving forward, you'll be successful.
And will you be done in 2 years, Devin, in your program?
I could have been, but I'm taking my internship in the summer next year or the fall next year.
Okay.
So if I did take it this summer or this fall, I could have been done. But I want to get my internship because I'm thinking about going back for more schooling after the 2 years.
I don't think you should rush it for 2 years
Yeah.
either, though, because it's better to get education, understand what you're doing, and apply it than to get education, not remember a thing, and be lost. So like me, I was like, I want to get out of here in 2 years. I'm ready to go. Like, but then Brenda kept talking to me. She's like, that's not realistically going to happen. And I'm like,
It's
going to
tough to get
happen.
through. I mean, a 2-year program at Kirkwood, especially liberal arts programs,
Yeah.
like education's a liberal arts. I mean, if you have no prerequisites, and I always say if you have no job or no life other than if you can carry 18 to 20 hours a semester, so a lot of people spend longer than that. The compass test they're talking about, tests, reading, writing, and math for where they should start, so, a lot of them come in and need some prereqs in those areas, and so, it's a free test. So sometimes we say, if you took the writing portion over, you might score higher and be able to bypass one of those prereqs in writing, and then we usually advise that, and then they don't take our advice because it's not real yet, but, the first time they see it and they've been on an IEP and they know they have writing difficulties, it's pretty overwhelming, so a lot of them score better by just taking it again after they've seen it once, so a lot of times we'll recommend that.
Can they take the test in take the math at one time and then go back and
Yes.
take the
Yeah.
reading and English a
Mhm.
different time?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like the ACT where you have to sit through the
No,
whole
I would
thing
not
at once.
suggest taking the ACT. I find it horrible.
I
I mean, if you know you're going to Kirkwood and you know you're going to be in vital, I mean, especially just Kirkwood, just bypass that whole thing. I mean, it's not worth your time.
Well, my thing was I did the pre ACT test, and I did terrible. And part of that was I didn't study for it because I was kind of thrown into it. But the other part was they don't really work with students with IEPs. They're not gonna stop the test and wait 20 more minutes for you to finish a problem. You're gonna have to go the speed of everyone else, and that kind of defeated me because it's like I know that I learned at a slower rate than everyone, so I'm like my grades wasn't as good, and it kind of made me feel like I couldn't learn the information. And so I think it was better for me in the long run just to do Compass where I can do it at my own pace. I can do it in chunks. I can go back and I can do it, and it's free. So why not? Why take an ACT that takes $60 for a packet and a book, and you only get this amount of time, and you can't do it at your own pace? So.
Back with like knowing about vital, they say you're not going to get your diploma, and at first like that was a huge thing. I'm like, I'm not going to get my diploma until like they explained it more, and I was like, well, it's not like you need your diploma every day, And so then after like they explained more about that to me, I was like, all right, I don't care type thing.
So, and I'm not sure if everybody's familiar, it's a 4+ program, and so they're not actually receiving their high school diploma, even though they met their high school academic requirements. The high school's referring them to the program, they're still on the high school account, and then the high school's billed for the program and tuition costs, and so they don't pay tuition while they're in the program. So they don't actually, even though they walk on the stage at graduation and everything, they don't get their diploma. So it is, some students, that's a big deal, and usually the only people who know that are you and your parents, and I've known students who have their high school diploma held because they have a parking ticket they haven't paid for their high school, so it's, yeah. So right now they're all exiting, and so May 11th when finals are over, they'll all go back to their high schools and pick up their official diploma.
So the high school pays for 2 years.
It's a 1-year program, it's a transition program, so first semester we really focus on just strong start at Kirkwood, strong GPA, helping them figure out what services they need at Kirkwood that they may or may not have used in high school. And then second semester we really start to work on that, talking about all those other things they'll use next year, the ADA services, the TRIO program. Some of them are working with FST in addition to vinyl, so lots of programs, and those are all represented out at the Kirkwood table out here too, so.
We want to thank you for coming tonight.